This is the 2018 Best and Worst Awards, brought to you by the Everything Horror Podcast.
Enjoy. So what's going on, everybody? I am Paul Doski.
And I am Tessa Baker.
And this is, like we just stated, is the Best and Worst Awards of 2018. Now, Tessa, if you had to describe 2018 with the amount of releases we've gotten, to what come down to what we've seen, to awesomeness, to disappointment, what do you think? Do you think this was better than last year?
Oh, well, Paul, I think that it's pretty much maybe 50-50. There were some really, shitty things, but there was also, a lot of good games and films and things like that came out this year. So, yeah. You're gonna have to edit me a lot.
That's what I'm fucking gonna do. That's why I was trying to tell you, just get them. If I can... So. Alright, start fresh now.
Okay, so... Yeah, I would have to say this year was maybe 50-50. It was there was a lot more interesting games that came out this year, stuff that caught my attention a lot more. As far as video games go, and we played a lot more. But then we had some disappointing films that were overhyped and made bigger than what they actually were, so...
That's right. And on top of that, we've had a pretty difficult year, I would say, as well, which kind of led into not really seeing too much, to kind of going, yeah, whatever. Really.
Yeah, we pretty much had our own stuff that we had to deal with and work through. And we unfortunately lost our 14-year-old fur baby back in October, so that kind of had us put stuff on the back burner.
We also took, in total, 3 months break just because it was just, I don't know, it was just... Well, we had to do the charity, and on top of, what you were stating, with the unfortunate, unexpected event, really, and just everything else, so...
We honestly just needed a break. So 2018 probably wasn't our best year as a podcast, but we had a lot going on, and so... We've slowly been breathing life back into the podcast, so...
Yeah, and this is not trying to sound like a 2-year anniversary episode, but we just wanted to get the facts down to some of the choices that we may say may not agree with yours, which is fine too, but we're going by what we were able to see or play or really everything else. So, without further ado, let's start off with the first category of 2018 for Best and Worst Awards, which we will start off with the Best VR Game of 2018, which I will gladly say the winner of that, and Tessa's and I opinion, has to go to the pretty cool, we could almost say supernatural type feel to this.
And it was like a mystery.
Yeah, and we'll get into it too. But the winner is for the best VR game of 2018 that we played was The Invisible Hours for the PSVR. Now, why did we choose this? Well, like I was just kind of stating, you could almost take it as a supernatural type feel with everything that's going on because you are in control of this freedomatic, you could almost say spirit, really, where you're watching the events go down while you're trying to solve
the mystery.
Which is really cool. So, Tessa, what parts did you like about the Invisible Hours of what you?
I liked how you could play as as each character from the game and see events unfold through their eyes and and solve the mystery of the death of the house owner and who did it. It's kind of like it kind of had like a Clue feel to it for me, but in a really cool way, and I love Clue anyways. But anyways, it was just really good. It had a really good story, good storyline, and the character
development.
Yeah, the character development was good. Like there were some characters I liked better than others, and the environment of this game was just beautiful through a VR headset. It was wicked cool, and everything was crisp and clean, and the graphics were awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for a VR game, they definitely focused on the graphics, especially when you were, we'll just say, highlighting a specific player and you could follow them throughout the whole story. Or you could actually rewind, but that was another cool feature. You could actually rewind and then you could go to a different character and like follow them while listening to all the clues and just I'm trying to remember exactly what else you could do, but I think you could like even inspect the environment so you could see like what was really hidden in this or what was mocked up and who was in this at this specific time. It was really cool. I mean, this is not a just a one playthrough game. No, like there's so many things you could do. Like if you really wanted to, you could just pick one person and just follow them throughout the entire time, versus rewinding and going through every other person.
Yeah, so the game mechanics were really good for this game too. They were easy to use. They weren't really complicated, and they weren't ass backwards, for lack of better wording, which made it easier to play the game itself.
Yes, I do agree that the controls were so good. They didn't feel clunky. They didn't feel like you had to learn them in 3 months, like some games. And it was just an all-out amazing experience that we picked up for, I believe, $30.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely recommend this game for sure.
Yeah, it was actually the game that I picked out.
Yes, that's actually right. You actually found it.
Go me! Okay, so the worst VR game of 2018, and I was kind of hoping that this game was going to be good, because at first glance it looked kind of cool looking, but then when you really got down to it and you played it, it was just awful. Anyways, the worst VR game for 2018 is The Rabbit Hole for PSVR. Which is unfortunate considering the fact that it's supposed to be a horror-inspired game based off of Alice in Wonderland in a darker sense. So I was very disappointed when this game completely let me down.
I don't even think we even finished the first level.
No, we didn't finish the first level. They made the game like damn near impossible. The game mechanics were horrible.
Before you go into any more, what is the worst VR game of 2018, babe?
I said it. The rabbit hole.
I didn't even hear you then.
Yeah.
Whoops! Yes, but everything Tessa has said real quick, since I'm an idiot and guess didn't hear her, because I guess she had that really soft voice that just goes right underneath my deaf hearing level. Anyway, yes, I agree with everything you said. It is so goddamn confusing. It's almost like, what the hell are you even supposed to do? There's hardly any hints, so you have to figure it out on the go. But
it's a time. You have to do it under a time limit, and if you if you can't do it within the time limit, you fail completely, and you have to start all over. So any little bit of progress that you make, you lose. Or if you make like a big dent in it, and you do progress pretty far in it, and you screw up one time, it puts you all the way back to the beginning, and you have to do every single puzzle all over again. And we both tried the game multiple times over. I tried it as many times as I could in repetition, and it just gets so damn annoying after a while. You just kind of pretty much want to say fuck this game.
Which we kind of did, because we deleted it and still have yet to go back to it. Yeah.
The game mechanics are just shitty. The graphics were kind of okay for being a darker, horror game for Alice in Wonderland. Kind of trippy in a sense. But, it was just so disappointing. It was a complete letdown. And I was hoping for so much more for this game. It got quite a few mixed reviews for it as well, so.
Well, I think that's what we get for buying, I believe it was a $5 game.
Yeah, so. It was a $5 game, but,
Yeah, maybe.
Sometimes they make really good games and they're $5, and, they're great. But in this case, not the case.
No. Definitely not. So, also, when we also got chances of watching stuff and so on, we ended up getting some really cool films on top of some shitty films. So, this was actually, these next two categories was in fact kind of hard to do. I mean, we looked at, when we were talking about the winners and losers of these categories, we just didn't know what really should have won. But then when we really started to think of what we've seen and everything else, we really believe the winners and losers of these next two categories fit just fine the way they are. Mm-hmm. And without further ado, the next category is the best story of 2018, and that belongs to 3, Eye for an Eye. This film, and I'm going to say it again, this film, 3, Eye for an Eye, was a complete mind-exploding fuckery for me, and I haven't had a film blow up my mind to the point where it was there was hardly anything in my brain to even talk straight, because I had to digest what just happened, and I felt so bad when I was on DK Mag helping out Ken R2's with the roundtable interview with the director, writer, and the actors, and just because, I'm just listening, going, what do I say? What do I ask? My mind was so damn blown to bits. So, thank you for that, Lou. Lou Simmons, I believe, was I believe is the last name. I hope I did not just butcher your last name, Lou. I apologize right now if I did. So yeah, 3 Eye for an Eye. I believe that it deserved the best story because, like I said, it is one hell of a movie where you think this is actually going to happen, but then it's a whole new twist where you're like, what the hell just happened? And then your mind explodes, and then it's already too late. Babe, what do you have to say for 3 Eye for an Eye?
I just overall thought it was a great film. It had a great story, great plot. It had twists and turns. And like you said, it was a film that was like ultimate mindfuckery at its finest. It completely throws you through a loop, and by the end of it, you're just like, what the hell did I just watch? But in a good way. It's like, well, what just happened? Because, oh my god. Like, it's totally unexpected how they managed to do the film, how it plays out, and like you think it's gonna go one way, and it completely goes a totally different direction, and then you're like, well, shit. So, yeah, overall, I thought 3 Eye for an Eye was great film. I have no complaints about it. Now, the worst story for 2018, and a lot of people are probably going to go boo or not agree with this, but Paul and I were just...
But just put it this way, this was not a hard choice.
Halloween 2018. Now, there's a couple of reasons why Halloween 2018 got the worst story for 2018. And the reason for this is because of the fact there was so many things that happened in this movie that just pretty much made us like look at it like, well, how the hell did this happen? And where did this come into play? And it doesn't show like this building up to it. Or like, for instance, they show, and spoiler alert, they show Michael in like a penitentiary or a prison or some kind of like a mental institution, but they don't explain or show how they managed to get him, how to catch him.
They just mainly just said that the doctor and police somehow found him and brought him in. Like,
yeah,
that was it, really.
That's pretty much it. Meanwhile, in the first Halloween, how it ended, Michael was on the ground after going out the second story window fighting with Laurie. And, you know, he lands on the ground and he's unconscious, and then Laurie turns her back and then turns back around and he's gone. That's pretty much how the first Halloween ends. So, it doesn't really explain how Michael came into custody, you know, very well. They didn't, I don't know, explain it well enough or whatever. But... And why is Laurie Strode spending all these years prepping for Michael to escape? You know, she got a gun range in her backyard, and she turned her house into a fortress, which, admittedly, that was cool. How she did it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain things about the film that we did actually really, really like. And we did like what Laurie did with the house itself. Like, how she basically turned this house into, like, a giant booby trap. And she could she could go through rooms and check them and search them. And when she's done with the room, she could push a button and seal them off. And essentially turn her house into like a rat maze where she could direct Michael to where she wanted him to go. And how she pretty much wired it to self-destruct on cue of a button. And let's see here. What else did we like about it?
I think that was really it.
That was pretty much really it. Was the house was an awesome booby trap, and how Lori, you know, that was pretty much it, really. I mean, I can't think of anything else that we really liked about Halloween 2018. Everything else was just...
The only other thing I guess I would...
Oh, the homages, is it?
The what?
The like, how they threw in, like, the sheet.
Oh, the nods to the old
film.
film.
The nods to the film, the
homages. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say, actually. That's the only other thing I kind of liked, is they gave nods to old films. And other than that, really, I mean, I just felt it was a body count film. I mean, what did we say? He killed, like, 16 fucking people, all in the same way, too. Like, there was nothing, like, changing, really, about it. There was some couple different kills, but otherwise it was just grab the person and stab them in the fucking neck. Or throat, really. Just stab them through the neck. Oh, grab them, stab them through the neck. Oh, you grab this one, stab him through the neck. There was a couple kills, like I said, where, like, the stupid, retarded kid that was trying to be all comedy to try to win over this lady or girl, whatever, and then he gets it right on the fucking fence. Good, because I'm kind of glad Michael shut that kid up. He was fucking annoying. And when is now how, like, films of horror starting to become fucking comedy? Like, we don't care about some school dance. We just don't. I mean, whatever. We never had to worry about that. But I guess you guys need to fill in something, I guess. So we had to get this horrible comedy of, nice going. You just threw my phone in the punch. And, yeah, no. Just no.
People get hurt way too easily in films nowadays.
Yeah, but that is pretty much... Oh, well, the final nail in the coffin is... instead of calling it Halloween 2018, they should have just called it H4O. Just like H2O.
Yeah, because it was pretty much 40 years later, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, now on to some games that we played. Wasn't really much, like I said, and when we did get some cool things, they were a hit and miss. But in this case, this game has been going on for a couple years now, from Kickstarter, and we actually talked about it back on our first season of our podcast, and that game is Vidges. So, this year's most scariest game of 2018 goes to Vidges, and that is right now on Steam's early access. So you can get it right now while the developers are even making it right now as we speak. Now, why did I choose this game to be the scariest? Well, look at the environment of this game. This game has twists and turns. It has random events. It's not always the same. I mean, you and I, or you see me play it 3 or 4 times, and we saw different outcomes every time. So it's never really the same until up to a certain point, really.
Yeah, it randomizes. There's, like, no, like, set gameplay. Each time Paul would play, like he said, there would be a different outcome, or something would be different up to a point where it would start to synchronize again. But there was randomization. The sounds for this game alone, from, like, creaky noises to, like, ghostly whispers and stuff like that were just...
To running down the hallway because that ghost girl is coming to get you.
Yeah, is just spot on. Like, the sounds for this game...
It's amazing.
Yes, and the visual of this game is just very appealing. It's very pleasing to the eye. And also, what else? The ghost girls, the creatures, the things that would come after you and get in your face were pretty cool. I do, however, have one complaint about one of the creatures, and it's the shroud. It's supposed to be the dark figure with the long, like, claw-like finger thingies. The face should have stayed blacked out. When they gave it a doll face, they took away the scary horror element for this character, and they didn't make it. They pretty much, like, made it funny. They made it look funny. You can't... I would be more afraid of something that I can't see the face of versus seeing the face of something. Like, I'd be more scared of something I can't see and I can feel the presence of it than sticking a doll face on it.
Yeah, that's about it, in my own opinion, too. Trying to think real quick. No, I'm pretty sure we covered everything for Vigid. I mean, that atmosphere is great. The only complaint I really have, too, is that one part in the game where it trying to trigger a certain event that I won't say, but sometime when you open the door to try to trigger this event, it's usually not a different environment. Usually it's just a white screen where you kind of feel like you're just falling, and that's about it. Otherwise, you have to kind of restart your checkpoint or game and
try again.
So that's the only complaint I have besides what Tessa has said.
Now, the worst, scariest game for 2018, and probably quite a few people are going to be shocked that we are saying this, is Agony. And the reasons why it is the worst, scariest game for 2018 are the fact that I watched Paul play this a little bit last night, and it just seemed like the mechanics were kind of choppy. Like, it's almost like the game is fighting to catch up to itself, and it didn't it crash on you a couple of times? Hasn't it crashed on you a couple of times?
No, it never crashed on me. I never played it until just recently because of the fact of when it finally got released, all you saw was 1 to 2 stars of this game. And what made it more disappointing is that it took a lot of patches just to not have a breakable game. And the sad thing is, too, is not only did we get Agony at a weird time frame, and what I mean by that is we were originally getting told of a uncensored version versus a censored version. But due to problems beyond even the studio's control, unless they wanted to put it out there, they could actually have gotten shut down if they did not censor it. So that's what kind of sucks. But, however, they did find a way to bring us the uncensored version, which was by making it a adult only game, and releasing it under a new title, which was pretty much called Agony Unrated. From there, that's where all the positive feedback came. So that's why I'm finding this game to be the worst game of 2018, just because it literally had to take the second time around of a release of the game to make things positive.
I absolutely agree with you.
Now, back to some films where we once again watched, and these are what we think are the best and worst films of 2018. And to start it off for the best film of 2018, we have House of the Witch, which is directed by Alex Merkin, who we did interview back in July, I believe. And that was a really fun interview, which I would definitely recommend to check it out if you guys have not heard that interview with Alex Merkin. He is a really great guy to talk to, and Tessa and I think I can make it so that we both agree that we look at Alex Merkin as a new friend of ours to add to the horror family and to our horror podcast family of 2018. But before Tessa goes on with her thoughts and to answer or to carry on with what I just said, the reason why I chose House of the Witch is because of the story in that one too. Even though it does not beat 3 Eye for an Eye, because it didn't explode my mind to a million pieces, but House of the Witch told a pretty cool story that I really don't know if I've ever seen before. At least to my knowledge, it does not ring any type of bell for me, even though it could possibly have been somewhere, but I don't think I've seen it. And it's just that cool storyline of a witch that lived in this house that is pretty much like controlled the house, we'll just say. And then as one by one they die, something just turns up missing, is all I'm going to say. And that's where I'm going to hand it off to Tessa.
Well, like you said, it has a really good story, and the elements are just there, and the look of the inside of the house and how the environment was manipulated by the witch herself to ensnare her victims was just great. It was just well done. And when they would meet their untimely demise, something would appear missing from them, and it would be relocated elsewhere to serve the means for the witch. So, yes, it was very well done. So, that's our best film for 2018. Now, our worst film for 2018 would be the so overhyped Veronica.
So scary that people turn it off.
Yeah, overhyped Veronica. Paul and I watched this movie. We watched it all the way through. I even got up to make dinner during it and came back in, and it was still
playing,
still slow paced as fuck, and had me almost bored to tears. And for as much as it was hyped about, and everybody was just like Paul said, it's so scary, couldn't sit all the way through it, had to turn it off, couldn't finish it, blah 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 blah. Paul and I went through the whole entire movie, didn't shut it off once, And by the end of it, we just both just turned and looked at each other and were like, what a fucking joke. Anything to add to that, babe?
That it's quite a shame that it was directed by the man behind the Wreck series. What was he thinking? Oh God.
So disappointing.
I love the Wreck series, and
it just felt like another Ouija movie almost.
That's what it should have been. I mean, I even looked up the story to add to our horrifying review. I think, and you know what's really more sad? Is the only thing that we liked about Veronica was Sister Death.
Yeah. We out of that entire whole movie, believe it or not, coming from me and I'm a witch, I thought the nun was cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a blind nun who smokes, but can still see the evil around people. And then at one point in time, I believe we actually find out how she became blind, but I honestly 100% don't remember because we've only seen it once, and that's all it took for us to just say, what a pile of garbage. That's all I have to add. Do you have anything else?
I have nothing else to add for that film. It was an utter disappointment.
All right. Now, as the new year comes, there's always something interesting coming out. And, sometimes if that something interesting catches my eye good enough, I usually try to support it myself. So, with these next two categories, we're going to discuss some upcoming films and games, a film and game, of what we believe really has our interest and a little bit of why. So, the most anticipated film of 2019 is, for me, A Nun's Curse. Now, I don't know if Tessa will be able to have really too much to say about this, but to me, A Nun's Curse caught my attention because it has the beautiful lady, as we all know, from Sleepaway Camp, Felicia Rose. Now, what makes it interesting about this is she plays the, I'm going to say, murderous nun in this case, just because of some of the images that are floating around to it. I don't want to give too much away, but I can tell you, if you do go to Indiegogo, make sure you search A Nun's Curse. And I believe you can still pledge on it, even though it has been funded, but you can still, in a way, back it. Tessa, do you have anything to say about A Nun's Curse?
No, I don't really know too much about it. I mean, I saw like a little bit of, I think, what you showed me, but I think you pretty much covered what I would have said.
Okay.
So, the most anticipated game of 2019 is The Beast Inside. Now, Paul and I, we've seen the trailer for this game, we've seen some gameplay for this game, and
we also played it ourselves.
And Paul also played it. And from what I could see, the environment looks really good for this game. The mechanics aren't bad either. I like the feel of the game. It's got this ominous feel to it, like something's around you, something's watching you, something's waiting in the shadows, and it's just really cool. How about you, babe?
I think you caught it pretty good. I mean, there is some cool little scares in there that didn't really necessarily scare me, but it was still nice to get that cool, unexpected environment per se. Because the way they set up the scares was perfect. I mean, I don't even think if I wasn't who I am right now, and if I was a little bit more intimidated to get scared, I want to say the scares that they timed perfectly, I believe would have gotten me. But what about you, babe? What do you think about like the timely scares that they did do?
I think they were well placed. Like, they caught you off guard. You weren't expecting them, which was good. And they weren't like jump scares. They were put in the right place at the right time, and you'd be so focused into the game, and then all of a sudden it would just come out at you.
Boom.
And then you'd just be like, well, shit.
Yes. So, the series, and I'm talking TV series now, or if you want to even put it, streaming series, which kind of leads into Hulu and Shudder and Netflix when it comes to their own original content. And in this case, Tessa and I, once again, knew who the winner was as soon as we, started typing this category. Which the category is the best series of 2018.
Hands down,
has to go to The Haunting of Hill House, which is the Netflix original series. And you know what? Instead of me going first, I believe Tessa deserves this, because she's the one that also found it too.
Oh, this series was incredible. I loved it so much. I'm on my second playthrough of the entire series. It was, the story was great. It was just on point. The environment of this game, the atmosphere, the soundtrack, the ghosts, like everything was just spot on, beautiful, just perfect. And it used some of my favorite actresses in it, and everybody's character was well developed, and it made them relatable, like somebody, like you could connect to them in a way. And for me, this series had me so engrossed, like I was just absolutely addicted to this series. I thought it was just wonderful. What about you, babe?
I have to agree with everything you just said, but I will add the soundtrack. That goddamn soundtrack to this game. And for those that probably have listened and probably heard me say it multiple times, but soundtracks are my thing. And, oh, so good. The soundtrack is so good. And, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, we have no complaints about this series.
Yes.
Everything is just, positive and A++ right across the board.
I'm trying to think, I don't even know if I even have anything to dislike about it.
We didn't have anything negative to say about that series.
I mean, another thing I can throw in, too, real quick, is the hidden ghosts that apparently wander through the series, which I'm still trying to figure out the hidden ghost part, because I swear I've probably seen them, but I guess according to other articles and stuff, that they're always talking about the hidden ghosts in Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, so for me and Paul, we are both in agreement that this was hands down the best series of 2018. I even wrote a review on it for our site, and because I just thought it was so great and it was worth writing about. So you guys should definitely go check that series out on Netflix. It's The Haunting of Hill House. Now, on to the worst series of 2018. And I think I'm going to let Paul rant about this one. The Walking Dead series.
I don't even know what else to say besides just fucking end it. Just fucking end it. You're overkilling it. The hype is gone. You took out the main protagonist, Rick, who, I forget the actual actor's name, but the man behind Rick. You also took out the little boy. I mean, you took out a lot of characters that made the series, but even though I kind of quit watching it by season 4 or 5, I believe, I don't remember which one, I just know it's garbage, and it just needs to stop. And it's just not following the comics anymore. It's completely ruining the whole meaning of The Walking Dead, because it's not always drama, 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 kill a couple zombies, drama, drama, motherfucking drama.
Way too much drama in a quote-unquote zombie series.
But just put it this way, The Walking Dead should just be a soap opera.
The Walking Dead should just be laid to rest and just remain dead.
Yes. Yes. So, while that shit is out of the way, let's go back to best soundtracks of 2018. Which I just said, kind of, but I'll say it again. The best soundtrack of 2018 belongs to The Haunting of Hill House. Oh my god. That entire soundtrack is just amazeballs. And it just makes you want to just touch yourself and everything else, because it's just so hauntingly beautiful. Tessa.
Interesting choice of wording there, darling. But I will have to agree, it is a very hauntingly beautiful soundtrack. It's one of those soundtracks that you just want to stick your earbuds in your ears and you want to, turn the music up so you can't hear anything else but the music, and it just takes you to that world. It takes you away from yourself, and it's honestly really great music. I've actually written a couple of my poetry pieces for my new book while listening to this soundtrack, because it just inspires you. And it's just an amazing soundtrack. Like, it's just perfect. It's atmospheric. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's not like you just listen to it once and get bored. No. You go back.
And you play.
And you go back and back and back, and you get the idea.
Okay, so now, since we got the best out of the way, on to the worst. Worst soundtrack for 2018 is Infliction, and this is for a video game. And the reason why that this is the worst soundtrack of 2018, there's only one freaking track for this soundtrack. Only one. And it's not even that good.
It's good, kind of, but it's not
good enough.
Good enough. And I'm not going to say names here, but let's put it this way. When I posted about this game, somebody else messaged us on our podcast Instagram, and was trying to tell me that this game that I am talking about, which is Infliction, apparently stole from this other person. And then it's not just stole the music. It apparently stole everything about the game, I guess. Like the concept idea with the camera and stuff like that, I guess. I mean, this guy was full-blown telling me everything that this Infliction game was ripping off of this other guy's game. But at the same time, when a video game only has one track and it's not really that memorable, I don't think I'm gonna care if I have the music or not for it. I kind of care because I like my soundtrack, but in this case,
I wouldn't be terribly crushed.
I'm not too worried of not having it. Which brings to another thing about games. So, this next game isn't really, once again, like horror related, but for horror games, I don't really care for multiplayer games. And with this year, there hasn't really been that great multiplayer games at all, really, anyways, when it comes down to it. Not for horror, anyway. It wasn't like last year when we all were talking about White Noise 2, which that was the best multiplayer game last year. In this case, me and Tessa agreed that the best multiplayer game of 2018 should go to Vikings, Wolves of Midgard. And that is not a horror game, but it is an RPG two-player game that me and Tessa here can play together with. And the reason why me and her like it a lot is that it just reminds us of Diablo, but with a little boost up, where the environment actually affects you, where if you do not have the proper clothing and you're in a freezing cold area, your character will freeze, and that's when health will start to deploy from you because of the fact that he's starting to freeze to death, as I will say. Otherwise, you have to run and hope that you make it to that fire. Make it to that fire in time to warm up. So, other than that, yeah, I mean, it just reminds me of Diablo, and I like the fact that the weather, like the environment, actually plays a big toll in this. So, another example would be if it's a pretty warm environment, you do not want winter clothes on. Otherwise, you're going to overheat. So, Tessa, what would you like to add for the Vikings Wolves of Midgard?
It was just a very visually appealing game. It's a great game to play with someone else. Like Paul said, he and I, we like to play games that are co-op. And this was just a really good co-op game. And the fact that, like he mentioned, you have to use the fires to keep warm or you freeze to death. That was a really cool element that they put in there. The monsters and the beasts and things that you would have to go up against are really cool looking. The graphics for this game are actually not bad at all for being a co-op game that had like a Diablo feel to it, but in a Norse Viking sense. So it was just a very well done game, and Paul and I are going to go back to it and play it, but we've had a lot going on and trying to deal with that. But anyways, it will be a game that we will definitely be getting back into and finishing it to completion. So now on to the worst multiplayer game of 2018. It is Dead by Daylight. Now, the reason for this is because of the fact that in order for you to in order for you to get into a lobby with your friends, you know, which is easy enough to get into a lobby with your friends, but then when you're done with the match, you have to disband the lobby, and then you have to re-invite people into the lobby again, right? Yeah, you would have to re-invite your friends into the lobby again, and every time you would finish a match, you would have to disband the lobby and repetition, and it's just so damn monotonous. And the way that they made, like they brought Michael Myers into the game as a killer. They brought Texas Chainsaw Massacre into the game. They brought the pig lady from Saw into the game. They brought,
which is OP as fuck.
Which, yes, the pig lady from Saw, they made her OP as fuck.
I mean, I don't know if they ever fixed her, but last that we played it, she was definitely OP as fuck. There was no escaping her. Especially if you got somebody good that can use her really well.
And they did bring Freddy Krueger into the game, but they did not bring in Robert Englund's version of him. They brought in that stupid piece of shit version of the remake one. The remake one that was done by the guy that played as Rorschach from Watchmen. Such a damn disappointment. And let's see here. What else did they bring in? They brought in some other... those are like the iconic killers that they brought in. They had other killers that you could play as, like the Hag, the Hillbilly, the Doctor, you know, and there were certain things about these killers that were really cool. You know, I'm not talking about the horror icon ones, I'm talking about like the Hag and the Doctor and stuff like that. There were certain things about those hunters that were really cool. Like the Hag, she could teleport and she could, you know, she could trap you. You know, ensnare you. And there was one there was actually a hunter in there called the Trapper that used bear traps, and he could trap you with them. And then, like, the Doctor had, like, this, like, shock baton thing, and could use, like, static shock to, like, immobilize you. And that wasn't too bad. That was kind of cool. But then, like, the mechanics of the game are kind of shitty to a point. And, I don't know, what else would you like to add?
That the fact that every game is pretty much practically the same thing, just different killer.
Yeah.
I mean, you just repair generators and just try not to get put on the fucking hook, and then you gotta escape. I mean...
Yeah. That's another thing I have to complain about. When you get on the hook... Unless somebody comes and gets you off that hook, you ain't getting off that hook. Because, like, the way that they set up for the mechanics, like, I've seen some people get off the hook, but it is, like, really damn difficult. Because, like, Paul and I have tried to do it ourselves, like, get ourselves off the hook multiple times over, and you really have to be, like, mashing those buttons to the point where you're almost just about breaking the freaking controller.
Not just that, but you need a specific perk too, which requires oh god, what the hell did they call it? The blood shards or whatever. I don't even remember. I just remember you just need some type of blood point thing just to get these ridiculously high amount perks sometime, because depending on the way you want to get these perks, you got to be careful with that, because let's say you want two really awesome perks. Well, between these two awesome perks, you better choose which one you really want, because otherwise you may not get a chance at both of them, because once you reach a certain point in the game, some of the, we'll just say for lack of word, tree line, or should I say bloodline, kind of like breaks away. So the perk that you're trying to go for, you can no longer go for. which is kind of sad to say, too, because last year we nominated Friday the 13th game for the worst multiplayer. And here I'm going to have to say, at this point in time, I'd rather play Friday the 13th multiplayer just because, at least in that game, you had more ways to play versus one way. And at least with this too, you could actually fight back with Friday the 13th. I mean, at least you had a fighting chance against Jason versus Dead by Daylight, where it's pretty much like a running simulator while repairing the generators and escaping for your life. Anything else you would like to add, babe?
Oh, no, I don't have anything else to add. I think between the two of us, we pretty well covered it.
All right. Well, on that note, that was the finale. And I hope you guys enjoyed the best and worst awards of 2018 as much as we like to talk about why we enjoyed and not so much enjoyed these titles that we have suggested tonight. And, you know, I just hope as we go into the new year with 2019, I just hope we get some better movies. I know everybody's probably going to have better movies than us, but and not maybe agree with House of the Witch being like the best film when there's other films that came out like A Quiet Place and what was the other one? Hereditary.
Yes, Hereditary.
Which, unfortunately, yes, it's sad, but we have not gotten around to watch it, unfortunately. Just like I'm staring at it right now, and I still haven't watched it, and it's Death House. Yes, I understand it came out this year, but you gotta remember we're going by films that we have seen this year that have truly stuck around into our brain and pretty much just really stayed there. So, I just hope that we get some much better film too, where I'm not just like, you know, going overboard too. I mean, there was another, I mean, to be honest, the best story at the time before 3 Eye for an Eye came out, or came around to reviewing and talking with the people like I mentioned on DK Mag with the Roundtable interview, I think me and Tessa too can agree that if we didn't watch 3 Eye for an Eye, I think the other best story would have to be the Canadian film Darken.
Yes.
That was fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal movie.
I am so picky, and when I heard it's a Canadian film, the only movie I can remember that I've seen from Canadian. Why do I want to keep saying Canadian? Canada was that really weird ass movie I've seen a long time ago called Ultimate Killing Machine, or UKM for short. That was almost like a super soldier movie where it was just terrible. So I'm not trying to say Canada can't make films, but at the time when that was really one of the movies I've only seen, it was pretty bad. But yeah, Darken, oh my god. That, talk about atmosphere. Talk about the story. I mean, they even did a mini-series on YouTube, which was like the prologue to the full length. It was just amazing. And, you know, I mean, it's just nice to see a lot of people's work. I mean, I'm not trying to say everything that we saw this year sucked and doesn't deserve to be listed on here, but I mean, like I mentioned about 3 Eye for an Eye. I mean,
yeah, we just tried to narrow it down to like one one good and one bad for each category.
Yeah.
We tried to narrow it down to just one.
Yeah. And I mean, and as for games, too, I mean, there was a couple other horror games I believe we played this year, but did they really stick around in my head? Yeah, I mean, Tessa saw me. I mean, I probably went over this list just to make sure I felt comfortable that these titles actually fit quite a few times. And I mean, for anticipated, even the most anticipated film and game, there's a lot of films that are coming out next year. But in this case, I said A Nun's Curse because I helped support it. Just like with the game Beast Inside, I helped support it. Just because they caught my attention to make me want to support. But I gotta agree, though, about the worst film, though. Veronica, it was way too hyped. That is why me and Tessa said, you know what? Or I at least looked at Tessa and said, you know what? You and me need to make an article about this overhyped bullshit film, Veronica. Because I seriously could not stand seeing the article talking about this Netflix film is so fucking scary that it makes viewers shut it off. No. What happened was, it was so goddamn boring is that they shut it off because of the boredom. Because it was horribly written. And I mean horribly written to the point where we forgot to mention when we were talking about it is the main teenager that was going on with Veronica that started the whole damn thing. At one point in time was bringing her sister and brother or sister into the play as well. That was it. And, you know, once I saw that, I was just like, who the hell does that? Who the hell...
Here we go, more targets.
Yeah, who the hell brings in their little siblings? Is that the correct wording? Siblings?
Siblings, yes.
And, just, no. Just, no. I will stick to the fact that, yes, Haunting of Hill House deserved the best series. Walking Dead is just so overratedly retarded now, it just needs to die. And just stick to the comics. And I think that's really about it I'm going to rant on for my final thoughts. But Tessa, what do you have anything to say about any specific titles of why we...
No.
Agree?
Paul and I, we pretty much picked everything that fit into each category the way, to the best of our ability, that we felt deserved it, and we gave you the reasons why we felt that each of these titles deserved their place in the best and worst category of the awards. So that pretty much just concludes my final thoughts for this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed the listen. I'm Tessa Baker.
And I'm Paul Dolsky.
And we are the Everything Horror Podcast. And remember, as always,
stay scary.